In this lesson, we're going to begin learning about boundary surfaces. A boundary surface is new in SOLIDWORKS in the 2008 or 2009 timeframe. So we've had a few years to get used to this new surface type. The boundary surface is most like a lofted surface, although it also has characteristics of sweep. The boundary surface was the first surface used to create this helmet. And if we roll this back, we see the first surface feature here is a boundary surface. I'm going to use rollback and take a look at how we started creating this model. The model was laid out from a series of sketches. The ellipse here is kind of a guide for the size and shape of a human head. And the outline of the helmet from the side gives us an idea of fitting that helmet over a person's head. The boundary surface was created thinking of only half of the model at once. And notice also that I modeled directly over the area for the face shield. I didn't try to create that separately. One of the things that you will find in surface modeling is that it's easier to create something too large and then cut it back than it is to try to make something out of a lot of smaller pieces. So the jaw section of the full face helmet is not made as a separate piece. It was made from the original boundary surface shape. And here we have the original boundary surface with a couple of cutouts for the neck area and also the face shield. We're going to turn to another model, though, to learn more detail about how the boundary surface works. Because before we can plunge into a complex model, we need to first understand the concepts using a basic model. If you will, open up the file called Boundary Example in your Chapter 2 folder for SOLIDWORKS 2013 Advanced Course Working Files. This example file has a single 3D sketch with several splines put together in a bit of a mesh. We will use this as an example to see what the boundary surface can do and what its limitations are. The boundary surface can be found up on your Surfaces toolbar in the Command Manager area. So let's click on that. Notice that the boundary surface doesn't talk about profiles and guide curves. It talks about direction 1 and direction 2. In a loft, a profile and a guide curve are treated differently, but in a boundary surface, direction 1 and direction 2 are treated equally. Let's work through this a little to see how it works. You can select curves in various arrangements. Now, I usually describe an arrangement using letters. For example, you might have a T arrangement or an E arrangement or an L. Let's see how all of that works here. In order to select items in our 3D sketch, we need to use what's called the Selection Manager. And you can access that by just right-clicking in white space and select the Selection Manager. Selection Manager allows you to select closed loops, open loops, regions, or just individual selections, which is what we're going to use here. I'll keep this in place by using the push pin, and we'll accept a selection using a right click. So if I want to select something for direction 1, I'll left click on it and then right click to accept. Now I want to select something in direction 2, so I'll left click and right click. And notice that this arrangement is like a T because we have a vertical member and we have a horizontal member. Let's get rid of some of the visual confusion here by turning off the curvature combs. Okay, so we've got one curve in direction 1, which is blue, and one curve in direction 2, which is purple. We could select another one in direction 2, so I'll click on that and then right click. Okay, let's select another one in direction 1. Click on this line at the bottom and then right click. Now notice that the original that we selected is longer than the others. In most cases, you will find that the limiting factor is the short member. But you can also limit a feature in other ways. Let's clear all of the selections and then go back and try some additional arrangements. For example, let's click on the center, right-click to accept, and click on the center again in the other direction. Click and right-click to accept. So this is what we call an X arrangement. The other arrangement was a T. Notice also that we've got these connectors on the ends. We can grab these and pull them back to limit the boundary feature on both ends and in both directions. So in some cases, you may need to limit a feature in this way. We can also add to the selection for direction 2, and notice that the connectors have automatically limited this selection just because it was previously limited in the other direction. If we were to add this long top line as well, notice it's also limited by the same percentage, although because it's a longer line, we'll need to pull it back. So this is just a beginning introduction to the boundary surface. The main points to remember here are that it uses direction 1 and direction 2, that you can limit the curves with connectors, and also that the selection manager is often used for situations where your profiles are not organized into individual sketches. We'll learn more about this as we go along.